Good morning. Now am I on? Okay, thank you. This is wonderful to have this many people here for our first BORCAB meeting. I am delighted to call it to order. My name is Betty Simpson, and this is the Bay Oaks Recreational Campus Advisory Board meeting, commonly known as BORCAB. We're in the Diamond Head Beach Resort, and it is 9 a.m. on Tuesday. No, excuse me, it's 10 a.m.
Sorry.
At change in our time frame, and so it's Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. And it's have all of you here. I'm delighted to see everybody. At this time, let's have the pledge to our flag. Would you all please rise? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's start with a roll call of our members. Okay, we'll start with you.
I am Becky Guidry.
And I'm Simpson.
John Dislear.
Jesse Field.
I'm Karen Woodson. I'm the council liaison.
And Jeff Hauge, the staff liaison.
Okay, and we have Joyce Sullivan that has joined us by telephone.
I'm on the line.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And of course, pardon? Oh, yes. It is delightful to be able to have some of our older members here, Barbara and Becky and myself, and of course Bruce, if he's able to come in today. That's fine, but we would not be able to function without having new members, and I am delighted that we do have 3 new members. So at this time, I just want to acknowledge Jesse and John, yep. I had met John on the way in, so. Okay,
There's
And
three
Joy.
J's.
And Joy.
yes,
John and Joy.
yeah, yep.
Jesse,
And-
John, and Joy.
And Joy. Very good. Jesse, John, and Joy. Now that could be a tongue twister a little bit later in the day, but that's fine for right now. And then, of course, our town council liaison. I'm delighted that we have Karen Woodson with us.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank you very
Karen.
much.
Karen has served on our BORCAB board before, so it's just nice to have everybody. Well, the first thing that we have on our agenda today, excuse me, is the reorganization. Oh, and here's Bruce. Welcome, Bruce. We're happy to have you join us. Bruce is one of our former members that is still
Somebody on the
on
phone there.
with us, and that's great. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, we have the opportunity to be able to reorganize if that's what you want to do. So it's up to you who you want your chairman to be, and so I would ask for nominations from the floor or whatever you'd like to do.
That just means that there's too many mics on, so
Okay, so if you're not talking, turn off your mic. Okay. All right. Well, do we have a nomination for chairman?
I nominate Betty for chairman again this year.
Okay. We have a nomination for Betty for chairman. Do we have any others?
Joy second.
Okay, seconded by Joy. Any other nominations? Well, I'm delighted to continue as your chairman, and we'll work with each and every one of you. So That's important, and I appreciate your vote of confidence. So thank you. At this time, we would entertain a motion for approval of the
I think you have to vote on the
Oh,
vice chair.
oh, yes. Excuse me. All right, we also need our vice chairman. So do we have a nomination for our vice chairman?
I nominate Barbara Hill for vice chairman.
Thank you, Becky. I accept.
And
Thank
I
you.
second it. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, do you accept, Barbara?
I do. Thank you very much for the honor.
Yes, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to do this, so. Okay, all in favor of the chairman as Betty Simpson and the vice chairman as Barbara Hill, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll move on to item 3 on our agenda. It's the approval of the September 6th, 2022 minutes, and I'm sure that you've all had a chance to review those now. It kind of took a little while to go back and take a look and see what we had. So are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? If not, I would accept a motion for approval of the September 6th minutes.
I so move.
Okay,
Second.
Barbara's, okay,
John second.
and John seconded it. Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Well, we're moving right along. And now, item 4, our public. Please don't get in one another's way, but join us up here. Okay, we'll close that. And now, what we've probably all been waiting for, item 5 on our agenda. We'd like to hear from you, Jeff.
Right. Well, thank you. My name is Jeff Hauge. I'm the interim director of Cultural Parks and Rec. I just want to talk today about, there's not a lot on the agenda because a lot of the stuff we had on the agenda is really up in the air with the redevelopment, some other stuff that was on here. So we're just going to start kind of from post-hurricane recovery and how that looks for Bay Oaks right now. Some things we've been doing down there, what our staff have been doing. I just want to update you on that. Post-hurricane, our staff were dispatched to do our community resource centers, so they were intense with the public, serving the public in that role, giving out donations, water, food, information if they had it. So our staff at Bay Oaks and the pool were very busy in those tents that were open. They had, it was quite the time to be in there. We didn't have all the answers, and they expected us to have them. But we tried our best to serve the community as best they could, and we got through it, and we gave out, I can just give you just a quick rundown of that. We had 3 community resource centers. We had Beach Baptist, Santini Plaza, and Times Square. In all, we served almost 9,000 bags of ice, gave out 2,000 wristbands for people to use the showers, the laundry and bathrooms that were there on site. Our staff also helped give out almost 6,000 donations and 2,500 cases of water. So they've been busy. If you were wondering, I'm just going to give that update of the staff, and some have gone to permitting to help out there. So we got redistributed a little bit right after the hurricane, but we all were on. We have lost some just through the natural process of they wanted to find other jobs, or this was maybe a little too much for them. But our key staff are still here, so we are ready to move forward for sure. So with Bay Oaks, the facility the structure is there. It's structurally sound. There was minimal damage to the actual structure of the building. The inside was gutted. There was at least 8 feet of water in there that it sat above the doorways. I've heard anywhere from 8 to 10 feet, depending on where the surge goes. So you can imagine that first day we went in, it was just like everything dropped from the ceiling, which isn't uncommon to a lot of people in their homes on the island that was devastated from this. So we're kind of looking at a clean slate. The ball fields were used as debris sites for the state. So basically, it was rows and rows of debris that they picked up from the town, and that was their staging area until they could take it off the island. So that was our Little League field and our softball field and where the big playground was. So those are no longer there. If you've been down there, all the debris is gone, thank goodness now, and they're doing some soil testing. I don't know where we're at with that, but once those are done, we can move forward with the ball fields and putting those back together. Yesterday, the contract was awarded to Gleason to renovate Bay Oaks, so they are ready to go. They are ready to start. I talked to them yesterday. They're coming in today to get some pictures and get the ball rolling. They already had some stuff actually almost pre-ordered because they were anticipating this and wanted to get it done for us quickly. They gave a very tentative date, mid-July sometime. Obviously, we know with construction, it's not really a hard date anymore. That's kind of what they gave us, but they are very willing and eager to get us open by the time school would open for the kiddos.
Oh.
In August or whenever that is, that we hopefully will get the school open for the kids. So. No, they're, and I don't know if anybody else can.
Jim Adderholt gave an update on it yesterday in our meeting, and I think, so they had, he's feeling very positive about things. They're still working on an interlocal agreement between the town and the school and Lee County. They are looking for a vote just the April 14th?
11th.
April 11th, they'll have a vote, and then at that time, we'll know what direction we're going. But, no matter what, they have to redo the historical building. And so we would have smaller classrooms and that type of thing, but we'll have a better idea going forward on after April 11th.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so the Bay Oaks was immediately, well, not immediately, it was cleaned out and disinfected, so that part got done pretty quickly. So all the stuff, the gym floor itself, if you're not familiar with it, is a rubberized floor, and that actually seems to be okay. So we don't have to, for now, replace that. They did some mold tests underneath, and everything came back okay. So, it's not like it's a wood floor where it would buckle, and so actually the flooring, it should be okay. Now when they go in and take maybe a better look, we'll see, but as of right now, the flooring should be fine. But as far as the fields go, I know I've had some conversations with individuals about talking to certain sports teams, and Jesse, maybe you can talk a little bit more about that. But I also put a grant in for Scott's turf for $50,000. We'll know in May if we get that to redo the infield of the Little League. So we're really trying to get back to it and get that back on track to open those up and get activities down there.
Jeff, could you give me more information about exactly what the contractor will be doing that was approved yesterday for the renovation of Bay Oaks? Does that include the gym building? Mm-hmm. And it includes putting the ball fields back in? What does it not include, and what does it
To my knowledge, and again, I've been on this, I haven't had too much knowledge of it. It's been a week and a half since I've been on this job. But they are just going to be remodeling and redoing Bay Oaks and the very immediate surroundings.
The building itself.
The building Bay Oaks, yeah. So they're going to redo all the electrical, the bathrooms, if that needs to be any plumbing that needs to be done, they're going to paint. So they're going to do, air conditioning, those kind of things.
So when you're talking about that whole renovation thing, it's only regarding the building?
Correct.
When you're talking about the ball fields, I do recall when we were looking at building that community center, we repositioned the ball fields because of the school board issues and our partnership with the school. Mm-hmm. are those ball fields going to be rebuilt where we had at that point determined?
That is up for debate. And I don't know if Karen, maybe, we talked at a M&P meeting about it, and I guess they recommended moving it, but that is kind of the last I heard, is moving it to where it was for the redevelopment, so we wouldn't have to go back if we decided to move forward with that, to go ahead then and rip it up and move the field. So I think that was the recommendation, but I don't know if there's been a final.
There hasn't been a final, that was at the M&P and it was a discussion, but there hasn't been a final vote on anything. And I think the pool, that's a whole different subject and matter. That was very damaged. All of the pool equipment gone. I mean, everything about it was damaged.
Mhm.
So we need to regroup on that too.
What was the, Karen, I have a question.
Yeah.
I keep
Yeah.
thinking, you know,
Yeah,
the advisory
yeah,
board
yeah.
member used to be over
Right,
there.
I should
right.
be over
So I
there.
can actually talk to you. So-
Yes, this is good.
So, yeah, I'm so glad that you did bring up the pool, because
Mhm.
it seemed to me that, you know, the water certainly damaged the pool like it did every other pool on the island, but certainly it's going to be back in operation.
What they did is I think it was cleaned out maybe a month ago now. And then they were assessing, yes, I mean, at some point it will be, but they were assessing what needed to all be done, if it had to be resurfaced, obviously new pool equipment for everything, new everything for it. So, and what the cost of that would be. So I think there was some FEMA money for that as part of, you know, the whole renovation of everything. I'm sure there's insurance money on it too. I don't think anybody has the details yet.
No.
Or the pricing of what it's going to
No, and
cost.
for now, what we did just is we had a kind of a clean slate. So we drained it, we acid washed it so it got pretty white, and then cleaned the deck, got everything pressure washed, the buildings inside and out, disinfected it so mold wouldn't be growing back. And then now it's kind of in that waiting stage of, we had heard, I don't want to put timelines on anything, but 6 months to get pool equipment, the pump room equipment. So, but we're looking at getting a package together and just putting it out for bid possibly.
Are you getting the sense, as the staff in essence, getting a sense that the council is actually proactive in getting everything up and running? In other words, it's not a question that they're not going to bring it operational.
Yes, they have
Okay.
been. I've been talking to them in the last week and a half, or even earlier than that, about priorities, and Bay Oaks and the pool are in those priorities. So,
Okay,
yes.
fantastic, that's great.
Yeah, we did get a FEMA, I can't call it really a grant, but a FEMA reimbursement decision on the Bay Oaks, the properties that are there now in the pool and that type of thing, not anything in the new build, but anything that's existing now. So that's one of the reasons for moving forward quickly on the actual building, is so that we don't lose that funding. So.
So I was kind of thinking along with Barbara in the lines of the ball field and redoing it and how it was going to be shifted and all that. I mean, I guess at this point, like, are we eventually going to move forward with this new building and renovation that we've worked years to put together? I mean, you don't want to spend a ton of money in these renovations right now just to change them later. Do you keep it in mind that, that's our end goal? Like, how does all this work?
I think
Yeah,
the
right
first-
now, honestly, with everything going on, I've tried to ask questions too, and really that isn't necessarily, I wouldn't say a priority.
Right.
That
I
is-
know it's not going to happen right now,
Yeah,
but like just to
it-
keep it in mind. Okay,
What
the
the
field's
best
gonna
I
go
can say
here.
is it's on hold.
Right.
It'll be up for discussion again. We're not sure. I mean, there's a lot of variables at the town right now that, I haven't heard that it's a definite no, but I haven't heard, yeah, we're going to start building tomorrow. So
It's not a definite no, for sure, but it is not a first priority. Let's
So
put it that way.
Do we take the current rec center and have that in mind of, I mean, we may possibly not get another building, and let's make this whatever we can because it is such a clean slate?
Well, look who just walked in. Our
Perfect
town,
timing.
yeah. Our
Perfect.
town manager, maybe you can help us, give us
Yes,
some
indeed.
guidance on that.
You
Or
bet.
You want this one?
Here,
Well, then you can't talk.
yeah, you can talk from any place. Oh, great. Good.
Thank you. I'm Keith Wilkins, interim town manager. The question was about the potential new building.
Right, so I was wondering,
Yes.
you know, obviously we've spent so much time thinking about this new building and how everything was gonna shift and where different rooms were gonna go and different resources and courts and all of this stuff, and now that, you know, is it possible that it could be built in the future? Is it not possible? Do we take this into consideration when we're redoing the ball fields? And we're redoing the rec center, because now we essentially have this clean slate? What happens from here?
Okay. Just kind of coincidentally, I just left a meeting with DRMP about the plans there and, you know, what are we looking at moving the fields and what will FEMA pay for and that sort of thing. I wouldn't say that it's not a possibility for the new building. Not front burner. I guess like y'all were just saying as I walked in. Right now we do need to move the fields, start repairing the old community center, or move the big field, repair the center. Part of Bay Oaks, possibly adjacent to where the little field is now, ball field now, is a consideration for the temporary location for town hall, for our trailer compound. That would be 2.5, 3 years, probably. At that point, that opens up more territory for pickleball courts or whatever would fit in. I guess really what I'm saying is that planning process of, at least for the next 3 years, is just commencing right now with DRMP as the, which was the firm, I guess, that had done it the first time. So the repair on the community center now will be kicking off in a couple of weeks. We're hiring a construction manager firm. DRMP will oversee the construction on the existing community center. For the new building, though, again, we literally were just looking at the design as I got up and walked out of here that sort of wrapped the ball field too, which I'd not seen before until today. I would say that's still conceptual, but it'd be certainly a possibility. It looked like a pretty cool plan to me.
So is that something, as far as like the ball fields go, do you shift the ball field now, since you have to redo the whole ball field, and then just maybe, like, does it, if we shift, I guess my initial question is, if we shift the ball field now, both of them, however they need to be for construction, but then still, what if we never do the construction? Does that affect anything else? Can the ball field stay shifted? Or would it mess everything else up?
All right, my understanding is Littlefield is going to stay where Littlefield was. It'll be rebuilt there. Big Field moves back to the back part of Bay Oaks. So I think that happens. That creates a much clearer space in the central part to do whatever you'd like to do. So I don't think that they would preclude the new building or facilitate the new building. It's just, right now the plan is for it to move. I guess if there's other thoughts, we certainly need to hear those within the next, couple months.
Right, so we could just shift it and then figure everything else out later.
Yeah, and really to me, and again, I'm the newbie and the oldie, but
We're happy to have you.
to me, it does seem like it clears out the central part to create other opportunities or for other alternatives.
Did you say that the town hall would be moved to the little field for the next few years?
Adjacent to the temporary town hall would move. It's a concept, it's not a decision yet, but one of the alternatives is that we'd take our 4 trailers and move them over to kind of where the parking lot is adjacent to the pool and the little
All right,
field.
all right, yeah. Well,
Couple questions / comments. I'll start with the debris site. Obviously, the soil testing is underway. What are we doing for future debris sites? I think it's something that we really need to think about. It's so close to the school. In my opinion, it should never be there again. Obviously, hopefully the test soil comes back and we're good to go. So that's a change that I would definitely like to discuss. In addition to that, going with the Gleason contract, they stated mid-July. What are the timelines specifically? And then if they don't meet, oh, sorry. And then if they don't meet those timelines, are there specific penalties in place? Because we don't want this to drag out. Obviously, the most important thing here is for the kids to get back into school, and Bay Oaks is
You
a big
bet.
part of that.
Yeah, as far as the contract, I haven't actually seen the contract. I don't even think they signed it yesterday, or they'll sign it here coming up. They haven't, nothing signed yet, and I don't know about any penalties that are in the contract right now, so we'll have to look into that further. And the debris sites, I don't know if I can speak to that either. That's
I mean, I can honestly say that debris site was not supposed to happen. That was a swift split decision of what do we do kind of thing, and that's the only place that anyone came up with at the time. I think going forward, I think everyone is in agreement that Bay Oaks would not be the dumping site again. I mean,
Good.
certainly Lover's Key would be, but there was no plan, and it just happened. Split decision.
I totally understand that. My other question would be specifically around the how much funding do we have for the baseball field? Is that part of the FEMA money? Do we have enough to get it done? Obviously, the goal is to raise money. There are some things, in my opinion, that we should be doing specifically around that because there are limitations when you're not a 501c3. So that's something that I think should be the first order of business. One in particular, the Minnesota Twins, they have a grant that they're willing to award. I think we would be perfect for it, but we have to be a 501c3 to even apply. So just something to think about.
Well, and Karen could speak to that because we were trying
not on.
diligently.
You're not
We were
on.
trying diligently to form a 501c3.
That was gonna be my comment.
There
Your
was
mic isn't on.
I'm sorry, it's green.
Oh, okay.
It sure is a good thing I'm here today, I think.
yeah, it is.
It just
Is
wasn't
my
coming
mic not
through.
on? Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. And
So,
now.
All
Yeah.
right, so, yeah, I think that the issue with regard to a 501c3 is certainly a hot topic and an important one, but we were never able to quite get it off the ground. So, point well taken, but we're not there.
Take that on if need be.
Hey.
Wherever you
yeah,
left
Jesse
it
and
off.
I,
That's
Jesse and I have
wonderful.
talked about
Thank
this
you.
because he's so involved with the school and PTO and all the parents and that type of thing.
Perfect.
Because our biggest hang up in getting the Friends going, I mean, yeah, it's
Yes.
paperwork, but that's no big deal, but it was getting volunteers and people willing to step up to the plate because you have to have a governing body, you have to have your president, your VP, your treasurer, et cetera, et cetera. So Jesse and I had talked about that once he was voted on to BORCAB, and unfortunately, all of my paperwork, it's not lost, but it is in a storage unit that I didn't realize until last night at 10 o'clock. So I will be getting all that information for you and handing it over.
Good.
Just a background on that. Did we have that at one point?
We
Yes.
did have it at
Yes.
one point, and it kind of went through a dissolution because, again, there were a ton of parents on it, and their kids graduated and went on to middle school, and so then slowly but surely, we didn't have the parent support, and it just fell by the wayside. And once you've abandoned it for 2 years, when we went back to put it together, we couldn't just reactivate it. We had to start from scratch.
Yeah, and I see the value in it, especially with the Friends of Mount House
Oh,
and how
yes.
much they support
It's
it.
huge.
So I'm a
Huge.
big proponent of that too. So,
But I'll get all that to you within the next week.
Thank you. And thank you, Jesse, for taking that on.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, because that was a big stumbling block that we had before. And with the changes, thank you. Okay.
Also thinking that that's a super important
aspect of our job is to get people involved. So I'm happy to work with you on that.
Okay. And that was Joy. Okay. Very good. Well, we're making progress. All right. Anything else that you have for us, Jeff?
No,
I mean,
that
I'm
was,
sure we've got
that was
questions,
just
too.
the updates, and yeah, if you have questions, I'll be happy to. I've been involved in it enough where I can answer some or tell you I have to look into it, but yeah, that's about it with where we're sitting with Bay Oaks and the pool right now.
Biddy, I have a question.
The gym
Yes,
equipment
okay.
and, just the equipment in general, obviously basketballs and, the pickleball stuff, the gym equipment, which is obviously a high ticket item. Is it going to be in the same place? Those are all questions that obviously we need to work through to be able to get the community back there and the kids, of course.
Yeah.
Good.
Is that something that
Yeah,
is covered?
It will be covered through our damage inventory. Just a matter of when we start bringing it in. I did ask finance if we could have a conversation sooner or later, but with everything in the town right now, it's kind of a wait and see a little bit. I know priority is good for us is going to be the youth programming, for sure, and that's what we're going to get open first. I'd like to throw in some, since the building will be open, some, I shouldn't say easy programs, but pickleball, basketball, those kind of things to start. And then we can move forward from there. I'm not sure about the gym equipment yet. That was one of my questions I had for finances. If we're going to be open, can we or do we not have money to purchase that right now? So those are all things that are in the works, and the staff at Bay Oaks and I have been talking about.
Into just as an example, Life Fitness, they offer specific grants as well, things like that. Is that something that we're exploring?
Not currently, but we certainly could.
Okay.
We actually pre-hurricane we had a quote or 3 quotes to get new equipment for the weight room and cardio anyway.
Okay.
We still have those
Can we
quotes.
get
They're not
access to
active,
those?
but it's something we can look into, and we had already done our research pre-hurricane.
Okay, fantastic.
And I have a question too.
Yes.
Barbara, I do remember we have this loan, bank loan of 10 million, and part of that was to be for the construction and the redevelopment of Bay Oaks. And I understand there is a time constraint on that. Can you speak to that, what the status is? Are we going to lose that money? Where are we?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to. I don't know enough about
I'd
that
like
to
Keith
speak
to
to it,
respond
but
if he can.
possibly
Keith, if
Well, I
Yes.
think we just voted on, that was one that we voted on, right, to push for 3 years, or is that a different one? Oh, it's different. Okay, then you get this again.
Yes, come on up.
Thank you. I guess short story is last week, Chris Holly, my counterpart, met with the bank about can they extend it, can they extend the line of credit, can they substitute in or out projects, can we rebuild Bayside since it was built with that funding in the first place. I'm meeting tomorrow with our finance department to find out exactly what the results of that were. So we're definitely looking at can we extend that line of credit. Otherwise, yeah, the projects had to be completed by November, not just started, but completed by November. So we would have that limitation if nothing can be altered.
Did you get a sense of their interest in extending that loan date?
Prior to the meeting this past week, indications were they were not, because it's at a really good interest rate for us, which is no longer a good interest rate for them. And they'd like to get out of it. The sense was they would like to get out of it as soon as they could
Of course.
and not alter it at all.
So that basically
Yeah.
leaves our community center out of the running for any time in the next few years.
With that funding source, probably, unless something really drastically changed last week. Now, with regards to what FEMA would do I think there's opportunity to kind of shift some of the funding sources around, because FEMA will pay for the new fields to go in, which, as I understand from conversation I just had earlier this morning. There's some grant funding. I think there was $1 million grant or something like that for the field, that it would save that grant funding, or maybe, and or there's opportunity actually to shift some of the FEMA funds around. So we did very briefly talk about maybe some alternatives of ways to save money to put towards a new building. He's there, an artificial turf field instead of a sod field for the new field when it's relocated. A lot, like Jeff was saying, there's a lot kind of up in the air right now, but certainly would like the input.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
The FEMA money you're talking about, does that have anything to do with it being used as a debris site? Like, because that was a state debris site, do we get anything
That, well,
for
all
that
right.
location?
Yeah, I'd hoped it would be in better shape right now than it is when they talked about remediating it, but it was remediated for use as a debris site with considering the condition it was in when it became a debris site. So that's post-storm, pre-debris.
It's terrible.
Yeah, so that's just how segmented and bureaucratic the process gets. So FEMA will pay to reestablish everything that was there prior. So the little field, the big field, whatever was destroyed, FEMA will pay for that. What they call the remediation from the debris site, they're done and off the field now.
Okay. Well, we all know how long it takes to get FEMA funds as well, so
Yes.
we're kind of.
As a matter of fact, we just got approval on the berm, the emergency berm on the beach, which I think is the first FEMA funds to be approved in Lee County for reclamation type projects. Yeah, that's huge. But so it's flowing, but it is slow, yes.
I have a question for Jeff. Prior to the hurricane, we were kind of revamping our advisory boards, and BORCAB took on Bayside and the beach accesses. Is that effective? That was grouped under BORCAB before the
Yeah, I
hurricane,
wasn't.
but not effective.
I wasn't part of those meetings, so possibly somebody that was in those.
I'm not sure. I know that we had it all laid out and planned. I'm not sure that it ever went to council
Okay.
for approval.
I was wondering if they did.
So I think that's something, could we maybe check on that with Amy Baker? So basically at one point we were talking about combining like BORCAB and CellCab and a number of different ones.
Crab, because
Crab.
crab became non-existent, but they were doing all the beach accesses, which
I do.
obviously now every
Right.
single one of them needs a little TLC.
Right, so I think we had agreed that CellCab would stay for the
Yes.
Mound House
Yeah.
and for Newton Park. And BORCAB would take over the rest of CRAB responsibilities and have Bayside Park, Bay Oaks, and the beach accesses. And yeah. And so, but
Yeah.
I don't think it ever went to the final route to the council at
And now
that time.
Bayside is starting over, basically. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
so,
nobody that has it under their umbrella.
yeah, so we need to check on that and see if it ever went to, I don't think it ever went to council, because it would have probably been September or October.
Yeah.
So that would have been,
Yeah, we'll check on it to see where we are in
Okay.
the process.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
get that.
Thank you for bringing that up.
and I don't think we want any changes in that, do we? I mean, we kind of agreed to that.
We did.
Need some outlets.
Well, yeah, no, I know Bayside needs outlets. I have mentioned that how many times?
You
Oh
got
my
a chance
gosh.
now to put the outlets in.
Yeah, excuse me, how do we have a stage with no outlets? But anyway,
Well, and we had already discussed it with CellCab and BORCAB, and CellCab had determined that they wanted to stay separate. So
correct.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do remember those conversations, and now
Yeah.
it's vaguely coming back to me on,
So
on
that-
crab.
that was a lot of
Yeah.
conversation.
And decided to complement each other, but to remain separate.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And we have some of the same people on each board,
Right.
you know, so it's well coordinated, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Anything else? Yeah,
So who sets the priorities for the Bay Oaks situation now? In terms of, you're gonna redo the gym, but then what's the priorities in the gym? You alluded to some of that, that's the youth programs. But then what comes next? Is it the pool, is it the fields, is it the athletic playground that's supposed to be by Sterile Boulevard. Who sets these priorities? I guess the council, because they have
Well,
the funding?
Yeah, it
Aren't
does-
you glad you came?
You might as well just
I'll let-
join us up here
yeah.
at the table.
The reason I'm just going to let Keith take this one is because the priorities have definitely changed. You know, before it would be a bigger conversation probably on my end, especially as far as the programming goes. They'll probably, you know, defer to myself. But as far as the priorities of which comes first, I'll let Keith talk to that.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that. Absolutely, we look to Jeff for leadership and coordination with you guys on all of those activities, particularly under normal times. Right now, it's a matter of the momentum that projects receive with FEMA and their funding, I would say, which we'd have to take into heavy consideration on prioritization. The Bay Oaks was well on its way, community center, the Burn was well on its way. The pool, not so much, but I think the pool, and you guys can certainly advise us, I think the pool, unless there's a pool advisory group, would be a pretty high priority to try to have back online for summer.
Yes.
We'd hope so.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it will be
Definitely.
hot, kids will want some activities, and it's a revenue generator, so it's kind of a win-win-win for us. So I did just tell DRMP this morning and Jason to really try to prioritize getting the pool back online. Probably should realize that there are citizens advisory groups that would be interested in that prioritization, but I just kind of picked that out of thin air for that logic. But really, overall with project prioritization, it does depend on the momentum that project gets with funding and the application process and the reimbursability from FEMA to us. And a lot of that depends on contractors and how in line all the paperwork is and quotes and that sort of thing. So it's gonna kind of do a little bit of this shifting back and forth. But anyway, I picked the pool this morning as an example.
I think that's a good example, and I've never been a fan of having two fields there. And it just seems crazy to me to spend money on two fields when there's so many other things to be done that you can't coordinate a single field to take care of both types of functions, Little League and softball. Because the utility of that versus the other items, to me, seems scant. That it's time of use versus the investment required just seems wrong to me.
Well, we did have
Yes.
this issue because, as you say, Bruce, I think the ability to maximize that land for revenue-producing activities and also to meet the needs of the community. Pickleball is a very,
Oh.
very popular sport,
Right.
and we were lamenting the fact that because of our border on mangroves, we were very limited as to how many pickleball courts we were going to put in as part of this redevelopment. If that conversation is now back on track to be listed as another priority to reconsider, I'm all for it. I agree. I mean, you know,
Thank you.
if softball is not a hot button item, but pickleball is, we have to be practical.
Yes.
Not nostalgic, but practical.
Exactly.
I don't know that it's necessarily nostalgic. Soccer was also an issue as far as having the
Yes.
appropriate
Yeah.
size fields for
Yes.
the different, like U10 and U12 and all that. But my kids don't personally play baseball, so I can't speak for my own experience. But from my understanding is that you do need both fields. You can't have Little League on the big field, and they use them both simultaneously as well. Jesse, I don't know if you know more about it.
You cannot. You can't have a softball field on a Little League field. You definitely can't have a soccer field on a Little League field.
Right.
It would be more of a multi-use field for, men's softball, girls softball. I think it's important to have both. Where they're located, it's a pretty big space. I think we can figure it out. At the same time, when we look at revenue generators, I would love to see the plans for the community center that was going to be put together, because there's a lot of options for us. You can have concerts, things like that, where you can bring in
Yes.
some pretty
That
good
was the whole
bands and a
plan,
lot
yeah.
of
So
revenue.
that's something we looked
Planning to do,
into.
yes.
Okay, yeah, 'cause
That was all
that's-
part of the reason to
multi-use,
do it.
yeah.
that's
There's a
something that can be a
youth room
huge draw
upstairs and-
here. Obviously, then you got to think about parking and things like that. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, yes, revenue generating is extremely important, but you can't have a Little League field be a combination of a softball field as well.
Why is
So,
it, why is that?
It's size. First off, size. Obviously, the mound is different. Just the measurements of a field in general are significantly different.
Well, yeah,
you can't
but-
have a men's softball game on a Little League field. It just doesn't work.
You can have a Little League on a softball field, though. Just move
You-
the fences.
You could, but if I'm hearing it correctly, we're going to put the Little League field in the same place as it is right now.
Right.
Oh, that's one thought, but that doesn't have to be the, to me, that doesn't have to be the end all. If you look at a big multi-use field that could be used soccer, the problem is the mound, I guess. But otherwise, I don't understand why a diamond doesn't fit in the diamond. They're all the same.
It can.
You can move the
It,
fences.
it can. I mean, obviously there's a structure behind the Little League field today that would have to move. My point I was making is where the Little League field is today, you can't have a softball or a
Yeah,
soccer
no,
field.
I agree
Yeah.
with you.
If
Yes,
that
yes,
moved,
yes, yes.
absolutely, you can have a multi-use field for sure.
Yeah.
That's definitely an option. I don't know what that would look like or where it was located, but to your point, yes, you can do it the other way around.
You know, in the grant that I submitted to Scott's, that was one of the things that not necessarily the size, but a multi-purpose use of the facility, and why it would be important for us to get the grant and the green space was to have events on there, like movie nights or whatever it might be, Easter egg hunts, which is at Diamond Head this week on Saturday, by the way.
Yes.
Little punt there.
10
My-
o'clock, please register.
My suggestion to a multi-use field would be to have an artificial turf. There's a lot of different options out there, for sure. It's a lot more cost-effective, not out the gate, but over time it is. So it's something that we should definitely think about moving forward, because obviously the maintaining of the grass can get expensive, you know, especially when it gets really hot.
Yeah, and from talking to the previous director, Allison Geeson, she said that may have been a topic at one point. I'm not sure where they were with that. But.
I know there's a lot of people that are very passionate about the Little League field and the baseball fields that are not at this meeting today. So I don't, as far as that goes, I'm not sure. There's a lot of money that they've raised in the past for different things and
Correct.
all that. But I do feel like if this is something that we're thinking about and considering, that it does not make sense to come in and fix up both fields as is and pay all the money for that and use all the grant money or whatever, and then be like, oh, okay, we really don't need this other field and combine.
I
agree.
totally,
I think
totally
we ought to look
100% agree with that.
I
Yeah.
think we ought to be looking at the multi-use field.
Well, and there's also, whatever is going to happen with the school, there's a interlocal agreement that is being worked on as we speak. So I don't know exactly what's going to come out of that, but I know we had use restrictions because of the fencing and where the buildings were and all that kind of thing too. So I'm not sure where that all plays in, depending on what buildings come back. That has to be discussed too.
Oh, you bet.
I'd like to ask another question about the Bay Oaks gym. Did the roof survive?
Yes. Yep. It held up very well from what I hear. We had just got it, I'll say patched up because it was Bay Oaks, and it was not leaking pre-hurricane, and I think it held up pretty well.
I find that interesting because there was so much complaints about that building from Lee County and staff at the town hall that building was junk. You ought to just tear it down and stuff. So I'm pleased to hear it survived
Yeah,
that well.
it was probably a month before we had some leaking in there, and we had a roofer come in and do some damage control on that pre-hurricane. I think it held up pretty well. We had some of the flashing that needs to be replaced, but I think the actual roof itself was fine from what I know.
I mean, for one, I use the gym often, and my kids were there for camp. I never really saw any of the issues that people are talking about. I think aesthetically, can it be better? Is it kind of an eyesore? Yeah, but those are all things that you can solve for sure, especially with a clean slate. I wanted to go back to one thing that's really important is, if you want to get young families in here, you're going to have a draw. And so one of those draws is obviously Bay Oaks, Little League, soccer, softball. These are all very, very important. We've got to make sure we're as cost effective as we possibly can when we think about those things. Obviously, pickleball is huge as well. But if we want to get young families in here, because to Karen's point, there are going to be very specific numbers that we have to hit as a town to actually keep our school. And so I have no doubt that we'll be able to do that. Obviously, it's going to be a long road to be able to get there. But we've got to really be thinking about what are some of the things that we can do in parallel. Look, there's a laundry list of things to do. If we try to do everything, nothing will get done. So yes, prioritizing all these things are important, but there are things that we can do in parallel at the same time, like the pool and the field, right? Those two things can be done at the same time, but obviously the number one most important thing is getting that Bay Oaks facility up and running, and then starting to, obviously generate money as quickly as we possibly can. A lot of that's going to come through donation, so we've got to figure out what that looks like as well. Because we really got to go out there and start getting as many grants as we possibly can. And now's the time, right? They're going to go away, so we've got to get on them and just understand, like, what do we need to make up for?
Yeah, and to Becky's point, we do have some strong supporters in the Little League, and we had soccer there that are willing to definitely help us out, to say the least, and get those fields back up and running, and new equipment and possibly new fencing or scoreboards. So we're not alone on this, for sure. But I do agree with the priority.
Another question. That the exercise field, I can't think of what we were supposed to call it. Fitness center by
The front parcel there,
Yeah,
the outdoor National Fitness School.
That's it, National Fitness. Did that equipment survive?
It did not.
Next.
It did not. And right now, I guess update on the front parcel is, we all know pre-hurricane we put in the front driveway. That's done. The sign, actually, the company said we'll hold it. So when we're ready to order it back up, we'll get it from them. It's not like we had it and it got damaged. They have it. When we want it, we can get it. The equipment was back in the sheds, or in the carport back by the outdoor basketball / pickleball court. And yeah, all that got pushed into the mangroves, and with all of our other, with all the other contents in our sheds and those kind of things for Fright Night, or our tables and chairs, whatever was back there, and it all got pushed into the mangroves. So yeah, it's gone, but it's on our damaged inventory list. So it's not forgotten about, but it did get washed away.
Do we have any insurance
On Yeah, we had damage inventory that we sent to insurance too. I can't tell you numbers, but I know we did have contents and building insurance.
So we're talking about this clean slate and shifting things around and ball fields and all this stuff. 3 out of 7 of us are new. Is it possible to have another meeting soon and have our plans for the reconstruction so they can see them and we can just discuss that? Because it's hard to talk about this new building and all the reconstruction and where the fields are going to go when half of us don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I guess the discussion would be, with the town as well, because we've been talking a lot about priorities, and
Right.
Is it a priority of the town? And it could be, it may just be is to redesign these fields right now, or we just put them back where they go because of FEMA money. I don't know.
Well, and if we could provide our new members and give all of us an update again on what we had done and what we had started, I think that would be very important to them, and let you know what we have already discussed. And I had the feeling that Jesse has kind of looked into some of those things that we have discussed before, and what was priority to us. And so that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
And and I don't know what time frame is, but even if it were provided to all of our members, and that they would be ready to be able to review all that at our next meeting, So I know sometimes if you're coming from a distance, that can be a problem, but if you just had everything that has been done so that you understand what has been so important to us.
Yeah, and I mean, one way is to, like John and I were talking about, he read through the minutes since like 2014, you know, prior to the meeting, and so some of them are in the minutes, and some we can put together in a little package. But like things like the national fitness that you may not have known about,
Yes.
washed away, and it's just a priority of what we can do for the town. So I think setting our priority would be good, and then going to the town and.
Very good.
You know, we have a M&P meeting this Thursday. So in, you know, the actual council member comments, I could bring it up that this has been in conversation through BORCAB, and maybe just get a little bit of a feel of where everyone is thinking about
Good.
this and what priorities are. You know, unfortunately, I think it's 2 to 3 years off. I mean, there's so many different things that have to come into play first. But at least we can get it, you know, the subject in front of everybody and start talking about it.
That would be great.
I think that's the
Okay.
thing, it's not even just for the
Okay.
redevelopment, it's just to put everybody on the same page and look at the whole picture.
Right.
And say, okay, maybe we do need only one field and we're gonna put it here, and then forget everything else for now, you know, but at least we're all looking at the
Yeah.
same paper and the same plans, and we can all kind of work together.
I
for-
think
I-
there's enough of us to parallel all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm going to volunteer before I'm assigned to all things swimming pool.
Oh, okay.
But, you know,
Very good.
in a situation like this, in my 30, 40 years in swimming, there are so many municipalities. I'll say, and I get cursed for this, but I'll talk about my experiences in California. The municipalities that work together when a pump goes down, where they will absolutely try to bury you at a swim meet, they will also hand carry you a new pump if they have a spare.
Oh, okay.
That community, I mean, that's what I'm going to tap into. And I'm just going to need to learn the ins and outs and the yeses and nos of what I can ask for, demand, and do, because, you know, I want to hyper focus on the pool.
Sure.
Because when Keith just said something that I'm going to make him regret, pool, priority, summer, those 3 words to me emotionally paid for my flight yesterday.
And John, I
Okay.
mean,
So, you know,
and
that-
if anybody would like to go
Yeah.
down to the pool, we can open it up and just
Yeah, I
just show
definitely
you what
wanna-
it is.
wanna
I mean,
walk
show
around.
you kind of walk around Bay Oaks and show you kind of what it's like, what it looks like. I'm free to do that at any
Yeah.
point, and I know you're here at kind of limited time. So
So I'm going to be here when I need to be here.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we can even go today.
We
I'm okay.
appreciate
I'd love
that.
to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to be
But-
available to help with those things, and definitely, you know, rec is always been a passion of mine, and I've been involved in rec my whole life, whether it was
Yeah.
playing sports or, you know, running facilities, and I also want those to be my priorities too. I mean,
Yeah.
we got through Mound House, which is pretty good. It opened today. Ribbon cutting was great. Thank you that showed up. But I want to do the same for the rec center and the pool. Those are the next priorities. Sounds like rec center will be first, and then really shortly after, if not starting it right now, the pool.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
when I pose this to the right parts of the swimming community in America, they're going to look at me and say, "Why aren't you swimming yet?" So
Oh.
that way I can open
Yes.
up the question to, "Here's why. What can you do?" You know, and we become a part of that reciprocal system of when somebody else needs help, when
Yeah.
we're operating.
And yeah, and we are. I mean, we're kind of short on time, but there, you
Yeah.
know, when you say that, we want to push forward as much as we can, and it's nice to have a voice. Sometimes getting on the island and getting contractors on the island to come help us has been tough, but if we have that voice behind us, a strong voice, we'll get that done.
We kept our pool together as it fell apart in Mission Viejo, which is one of the greatest swimming kind of castles in America. It was what we call chewing gum and duct tape. It's
Oh,
now
I'm familiar with
it's
that.
now a new $40 million facility, which is not what I'm thinking of talking about. But when a heater went down, our neighboring community, you know, their public works people came over with a heater. And I think we're going to find that along the way.
That's good. Okay, did you have anything else?
Not on my agenda. I just wanted to, again, this is a good time to plug the Easter egg hunt on Saturday morning. Should be a good time. It's right here at Diamond Head beachside, and it'll be a great time. I think there's 60 some, maybe 70 kids signed up already, so we're looking forward to
Wow.
bringing the community in. What's that, more?
We're
Terrific.
going.
Okay, I'm going with my son.
Okay.
What? Okay. But it should be a good time, and I know the kids that I know are really looking forward to getting together again in the families, just to keep some sense of community going for them.
Okay.
Question, the last thing I just wanted to add, a lot of the parents are talking about the fifth graders. I have one, so it's more personal to me, but also the other parents would love to be able to get the kids on island for a graduation, specifically in Bay Oaks, which they're familiar with. If there's an opportunity for that, I think we should really push, get some normal back. I think that'll be a really nice thing. And then obviously we want to do something specifically around, which we're not familiar with, but I know a lot of you have been here a long time, where they're actually able to inscribe their names into the cement all around the school. So we're looking into some options specifically around that as well. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I'm all for it. If we can make it work with the construction and timing wise, I think that'd be great for the kids, because we get a number of those kids have been through our program as well, and it'd be a good tie-in.
Very good. Okay, at this time, if you don't have anything further, let's move on to our member items and reports. And at this time, I would like to start with our new members. And we didn't get a chance to learn too much about you on the introductions. And so, I mean, anything that you want to say, but also to tell us just a little bit about yourselves. I think that would be beneficial for all of us.
Sure.
And I'm looking down there at you, Jesse.
I will start.
Thank you.
So I'm born and raised in California. Moved here, or moved out of California in 2020. Ended up moving to the other side of Florida. Then basically came here, drove over the bridge, and that was about it for us. Fell in love immediately. My background, I'm a VP with a company called TrueCar, so I'm in the automotive industry. So I've been with the company for about 9.5 years. I've been in the corporate world for over 20 years. You know, for me, the most important thing, which is why I wanted to be a part of this advisory board, is the kids. And so what I do a really good job of is raising money. So
good.
I want to make sure that we tap into all avenues when it comes to that. I think we have a really close group of parents here on the island that really, really care about the kids. And so that is the most important thing to me. My background, I play baseball up through college. My brother was a professional baseball player. He has a lot of contacts. He's on a nationally televised show. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm very big into kids' sports, extracurricular activities, and making sure that, you know, as long as we think of them first, we're in good shape. And so that's a little bit of background on me. I absolutely love it here. I know it's going to take some time to get it where we want it to be. But you mentioned clean slate multiple times. I look that as a positive, because that's really how I get up every single morning, with a positive attitude. And I'll mention that I know there's a laundry list of things that we have to do. Let's just chip away at it little by little, and eventually it'll all get done.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, I'll move on to you.
Right. Well, I usually talk too much, so tell me to stop. My professional background is coaching swimming. I'm officially retired from doing it full time, but I coached most of my career in California. I was at Stanford for 7 years, and then down in Mission Viejo, and then Santa Barbara. And as they say, I ran out of California upgrades, so I moved to Colorado. But my parents have been a part of this entire big beach community since I think, late 70s. They were always the renters. And I've been coming here for a couple of weeks every winter since 1994. when I coached in California, I always let all of the local coaches have their holiday, and I covered all the practices so that I could get away to Fort Myers Beach and Bonita Beach for 2 weeks to spend with my parents after the holidays. So this has been a place that has been a second, third, fourth home whenever I could fit it in for as long as I can remember. And my wife and I bought a place on Flamingo Street in 2017 as our long-term plan, that we would build our dream place there. And our plan has obviously been kicked forward a bit. We'll be back when we're discussing meetings coming up. If you want to have another one, I'll be back on the 23rd. That week is demo week for us. So I'll be around for that if we can meet again, if that works. But anyway, my background is all things swimming. And after I retired from full-time coaching, it's all things Olympic and Paralympic sport. So my wife, for full disclosure, is the vice president of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and she is the chief of Paralympic sport for the U.S. So we are sports people.
Yes,
So it's not
definitely.
just swimming, so I'm not going to let anybody pigeonhole me right there. I
Okay.
was the sport director for USA Boxing for a year, trying to help kick them into gear to start winning medals again, which I'll brag they are. And you know, all things sport, and like you said, I mean, we can do all these things in a parallel. There's so much at this table that we can all just grab our own thing, and I could, like I said, I could go on forever, and I don't want to do that today. So,
Okay. Well, we'll give you
but I
another
mean, it's all things
opportunity.
swimming for me in the immediate. So let's get that pool going.
Okay, and Barbara, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment and ask Joy to give us a little update.
Yeah. Joy Sullivan, I've been an owner on Fort Myers Beach for 20 years. However, moved down here full time 3 years ago. And I do agree that having Bay Oaks be a priority for kids is absolutely very important. However, I think I would have to say I represent maybe the older contingent, which is the people that play pickleball and do spin classes and work out in the weight room. The Bay Oaks facility was super important to people on the beach, full-time especially, because, you know, we like to stay on the island instead of having to go over to Bonita or wherever. So I'm looking forward to getting involved and representing the folks that want to use the facility and potentially, you know, open it for things that, you know, like a pickleball tournament and things that bring in money. So I have to say I'm super excited about being there in person. I just happen to be helping out in Culver, Indiana right now, and it's really cold up here. But thanks for the opportunity, and I look forward to meeting everyone face to face.
Okay, thank you, Joy. And at this time, I'll bring it back to the table, and Barbara.
Well, I'm kind of an oldie goldie here, so.
The new people don't know you.
I grew up on this island, and we didn't have a Bay Oaks back then. But I came back in my senior years, 17 years ago, and I'm just, as Joy mentioned, interested in the adult programming for Bay Oaks. I go to the pool aerobics classes every chance I get. I loved the staff there. I loved the lifeguards. They were all very proactive in terms of providing excellent programming and at really great schedules too. So I miss that terribly. And when I come back to the beach, now that my house is in the process of being finished with its remodeling and rebuilding, I hope to get back to that as soon as possible. So I'm in for any support that we can generate from the community to further that programming. And I know one of the big challenges for the town right now is not only to get this up and running, but to find the staff to do it. And then the other important question is finding the resources to pay that staff. We've got a huge financial constraint right now with the loss of tax revenue as a result of the hurricane. So it's a mighty challenge for us all, but I hope that Bay Oaks will continue to be a main priority.
Very good. Becky?
My name is Becky Guidry. I've been on BORCAB for a couple years now. I have a son who's 7.5 and one who will be 10 on Friday. And like Jesse, I joined BORCAB because I am very passionate about the youth extracurriculars and Bay Oaks, and my children love Bay Oaks. And my kids are essentially Barbara. Like, they're going to grow up here, and hopefully, 40 years from now, we'll all still be here. My kids may live somewhere else, but they'll visit. And having Bay Oaks, I just feel like is very vital to their lives right now. So we've been here since May of 2018, and we just love it here. It's a very overwhelming time right now, but we're all in this together.
Thank you. Okay, and Bruce?
No noises. Okay, I'm Bruce Butcher. I was on Bay Oaks one other time prior to this. I've been on town council, many different committees on the town since 2013 probably. I guess I've always been on something, either town council or on a meeting or on a committee since then. And I'm very interested in the pool because my wife likes to swim every day if she can. I think pickleball is a big priority for us. I think it's pretty obvious that it's the growing sport in the United States. So I'm interested in getting these facilities up and running, and I'm big on the idea of a multi-purpose field rather than individual fields. And that's about it.
Thank you. Okay, and that brings you back to me. And I've been a resident here on the beach full-time since '66, so over 60 years, and a visitor since 1954. So it's been a long time. I had family that started a little motel here, and that was back in the 50s. So I've got one of my children that lived down at the what we used to call it the short end, the north end now.
The short end,
But it
the
was
long
always
end.
the short end of
Yep.
the beach, and another one in Bonita and one on the other coast. So we are definitely here. I've enjoyed working with Bay Oaks as well as CellCab and some of the other things on the beach, and am delighted that we have a full group here now for BORCAB and some new blood, and I think that we're going to bring it forward, and I'm just delighted that we're able to do all this. So, and I thank you for everybody that has to travel a little bit and take the time, and we will be cognizant of those meetings, and sometimes we may have to do it by, I don't know if they can do it by Zoom, or if we can just have a call-in like we have with Joy today. So whatever it is, we welcome all of the new members and the older members coming back. And I would be remiss not to mention something about Karen. She had been on our Bay Oaks committee before, and of course we worked hard to get her on the council. We're delighted to have her there, and I think that she's making good progress, and I'll let you make any comments that you'd like to make.
Yeah, I was on BORCAB for 3 years. It was my first advisory council. And then after that, I joined the LPA, and then luckily voted to be part of the council. So when it was a realization Dan was not going to be able to be the liaison anymore after becoming mayor, et cetera, and so I volunteered wholeheartedly because I love this group and I love Bay Oaks, and we had done so much work, and granted it's on hold now, but it won't be on hold forever. So I think we really need to keep pushing The council needs to know where everyone stands. I hope to be a strong voice in that and pushing forward with everything. So Thursday is the first push, so I'll let you know.
Good, very good. And would you like to say anything else, Jeff?
No, I like the way this is already going. First meeting back, it's not just this is what's been happening. It's a moving forward session, and I really enjoy that.
Good.
Helping out this team and doing what I can at the facilities to keep it going and engage families and in the BOSS program. We didn't touch on that very much, but that is a big part of that program too. Is getting our super seniors out and doing things. And we're even looking at maybe opportunities at the Mound House for now, that we can have some things out there, game days, potlucks maybe, to get the seniors together in a place where they can gather. And, since the Mound House is up and running, we may be able to utilize that facility as well. But yes, I agree with the pickleball is a huge sport. Just saw John Macarone was playing in a pickleball tournament, so that was kind of cool. I think he might have won. He yelled probably a lot. So those programs, we didn't talk about them a lot, but they are still big parts of our revenue that comes in, and a big part of the community that's what they want. So the other thing I just wanted to mention is now I think it might be, and I was talking to some other people about this, might be a good time to reach out to Silver Sneakers again to see if we can get that program in. Maybe I know it was a proximity thing before. There was too many within a certain proximity to us, so they denied us, but maybe now there's another opportunity.
A huge hurricane plea for us.
That's my grant writing is a lot of hurricane-y and this, hurricane-y and that.
Very good. Okay, well then I would entertain, let's see when our next meeting is. Normally we meet the first week of the month, usually on a Tuesday, and it's been at 9 o'clock. I don't know if we want to keep that until we get another date, or just so that we have something to look forward to.
For scheduling.
Be May 2nd at 9 o'clock. I mean, that would work for me.
Date is May 2nd. So
Okay, so our next meeting would be May 2nd at 9 o'clock, probably here at Diamond Head.
yes.
We appreciate the facility and for having us here, certainly. So if there is anything else, I would entertain a motion to
I
adjourn.
actually have
Yes.
one statement I'd like to
Okay,
make.
yes.
I really want to recognize the work that Allison Geeson has done as
Oh,
our
my.
Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation. She was such a hard worker, and she led the programs with great finesse and grace, and so we are sorry that she left, but we're also very thankful that Jeff was able to step in as interim. And so we're looking forward to working with you, Jeff. Thank you very much for being there
thank
and for loving Bay Oaks as much as you do, because that's what it takes, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly is.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. But I just wanted to thank and recognize
Yes.
Allison for her work and for her dedication to Bay Oaks. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so we will be adjourned at 11:22 with the motion by,
Also move.
okay, Barbara moved.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you. And it is 11:22. Thank you.